Hi, my name is Saundra, and welcome to the first of what I hope will be many videos. Today, I'm sharing with you a 2-page 12 by 12 layout, the first in my video series titled Gone to the Beach. I hope you enjoy it. I took some 26 photos while at the beach. I'm going to begin scrapbooking with these 2 photos of my daughter Isabella and my husband Raphael. My title was pretty easy to come by. I have this cute Gone to the Beach stamp, and we are at the beach. I'm a paperholic. I love paper. I collect it, stash it, store it. I don't use it because it's way too pretty and I have to save it for a special occasion. And then I go out and buy more paper, sometimes the same paper twice. Anyway, I've chosen these 2 background pages for my layout photos. And I'll begin with the one on the left. Yes, left. And I'll probably bounce back and forth between the 2, fussy cut around that boat and let it pop up a little bit. Paper like this you really don't need to do too much to. It's beautiful all by itself. Maybe mat your photo, put on a few embellishments, add your title, and you're good to go. Before I start fussy cutting the boat out, I will stain this little fence, cute little fence, with some vintage photo. That way it'll dry and be ready for when I need to use it. Okay, let me put this one aside, let it dry. Next, I have these coffee cup sleeves. I'm always collecting something or the other that I think I can use in a scrapbook layout. And I'm thinking that I could open these up and use the inside to make a path across the sand to the boat. When you go to the beach, sometimes you see the paths made of wood, and that's kind of what I'm picturing in my head. Anyway, fussy cutting. I love the fussy cut. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes it's really nice to do when you don't have a lot of embellishments. It can make a page like this go very far, especially if you don't want to overload it with a bunch of stuff. It looks really cute too, by the way. Anyway, it makes me want to go in a boat. That's me in a boat. My sound effects for the day. Alrighty. I'm trying to make the path now, but I'm kind of having an issue with using black as the background underneath the boat because I can see it. Anyway, let me think about this for a moment. I will give the black a shot and see what happens. I'm really liking the path. I think what I have in my head is going to work out. However, I do apologize. I am super nervous. I don't normally film myself whenever I scrapbook. Anyway, let's go on. I used fun foam underneath the boat to hold it up with. It's nice, it's thick, and it's sturdy, so it'll hold it in place really well. And I'm making some smaller little, what do you call it? Fun fold, hold up boat things, whatever you want to call it, just to put on the side because in case I put any embellishments behind the boat, I have a surfboard, beach balls and stuff like that. I think I might put behind the boat if it works. And sometime shortly, I need to mat and layer my photograph, not go crazy with the layering, so that the photo will pop up. I am using pop-up dots to hold up the fence, and I'm putting drywall joint tape on top of the fence. And on top of that, I will stamp my title on paper and put that on top of the drywall tape. What I have pictured in my head for this layout is a 3D type layout. I wanted to have that effect. So popping up the boat and lifting the fence, having the path go underneath it, just automatically creates all these different levels for the layout. And then my photo, which will also be layered and popped up a little bit because of the layers, will again add to that dimension. Anyway, I'm trying stain around the outside of the little path, but I find that it looks much better in its natural state, so I'm trimming that off, and yeah, it looks better without it. So what's next? Stamping. I don't normally stamp. If you were to look through any scrapbook of mine, you wouldn't see much of stamping. And I don't know why I've never tried it in the past, because I'm always collecting stamps. I'm one of those scrapbookers. I go into a scrapbook store and I gotta have it. Don't always buy it, but I want it. Anyway, I've been collecting stamps for the longest period of time, so I figured I might as well start using them. Anyway, I had taken a class at a place called Photo Scraps. It's in Sykesville, Maryland, and the class was a lot of fun. I took it with a friend. We took a few classes together, and once I took that class, I thought I need to start incorporating this into my scrapbooks. Anyway, so I stamped, and it came out pretty good. And it makes a nice little sign. I think that's going to work out just fine. With this crochet yarn, I'm going to also stain that with the vintage photo and braid it and make like a little rope to hold up the sign with, wrap it around the fence. That's what's in my head anyway. I'm going to go through super speed in a moment to finish this part. Here we go. Just so that you can have dinner tonight with your family and not with me. So I'm putting the path down. There's the black hole for the boat to sit on top, which I don't think is going to make it to the final layout. I'm trying to be cheap here, saving that paper. Anyway, I'm finishing up the braid here for the fence, and this is beginning to look pretty good here. Anyway, the other page, the sister page to this, I was thinking of using that dark blue paper on it, but I don't think that's going to work out. I'm going to try using white paper instead. I want each photo on each of the pages to be matted similar, both of them under the dark blue to help the photos to pop up. The day was very overcast that we were at the beach. It was a fun time, but just very overcast. So the blue really helps the photo pop up more, and I'm using layers from one paper pack, which makes it really easy. I don't have to stop and think about whether or not all these pages that I want to put underneath it are going to match. They will match. So I'm going to mat the photo. I love this blue paper. It really looks nice behind the photo, and if I could cut straight, I would do this with scissors, but I cut crooked really well. Anyway, I like layering. It's so much fun. And you can just, do so much when you layer. I mean, if I had nothing else on a photo, on this background, you could just layer and make such a great layout. So, about my photos. My daughter is 3 years old in this photo. Won't tell you how old my husband is. But, but anyway, she's 19 now. And just as cute and adorable and smart and intelligent and brilliant, and I could go on. Anyway, we get up nice and early, pack the car, head to the beach, and she'd fall asleep before we ever left town. And but she'd always wake up at the exact same spot, no matter how many times we drove to the beach. The exact same spot was her wake up. It was a Dunkin' Donuts. Anyway, we're planning a beach trip shortly, so it'll be funny if she does the same thing. Anyway, I'm adding my layers. I like that little lighthouse on the right. I'm trying to keep that. And I'm inking some of the edges because this paper is pretty light, the ones that I'm using for layering, but it's all beachy kind of paper and it goes really well with the background. So I'm inking the edges because I want it to be more defined. I want to be able to see the different layers very clearly. And I'm adding a little bit more blue to help it pop against the clouds in the background there. And I'm trying to use all the different scraps of paper from the paper pack, including the little branding strips. They fit in, nicely in little places where you might need fillers, so nothing goes to waste. So I've been scrapbooking off and on since my daughter was in first grade. And I remember the first time I worked on an album, it was for the school, an album to raise money. And the ladies who were teaching me about scrapbooking wanted me to cut up someone's photo. And I just couldn't imagine doing that, chopping up someone's photo. Who are the people in the background? And they were like, they're strangers. They don't know the people. I said, how do we know that? And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't see myself doing that to someone's photo. And now I do it to my photos all the time. But it's funny when you first start doing something like that you've never tried before, especially scrapbooking. Everything in the photo you think is absolutely important and needs to be there. And it's not necessarily so. Anyway, we had created this scrapbook and for an auction at school, and it sold at an astronomical amount, but it was absolutely beautiful, and it was a great project to be a part of, and it gave me such a fun thing to do. And I remember one of the ladies took the photo that I was supposed to cut up or crop up, and she cropped it for me. And I looked at the photo and I thought, wow, that looks 100 times better. And now I crop my photos and take things out of the background that I don't want there or whatever. But I learned so much, and it was a fun thing to do, and now I'm addicted to it. Anyway, so here I am, joining that online community that I so enjoy watching and learning and wanting to be a part of. So what am I doing here? I'm cutting out this humongous balloon that I'm not sure is going to work because the boat is big, and now the surfboard looks big too. And I'm trying different things. I'm going to fool around with different embellishments and see what happens. But sooner or later I need to move to the other side, and I think I'm about ready to do that. So when I scrapbook, I tend to lay everything out first before I start gluing everything down. Some things I'll glue down as I go along, but for the most part, I like to lay it out, particularly when I'm doing a 2-page spread, and put it aside and then work on the other marrying page or the sister page. And in this case, I'm doing basically the same thing. I'll put together different parts or different elements of the layout, and there are no rules. There's no how you should do something when you're scrapbooking. It is basically what works for you and what you find pleasing to your own eye. So for me, it works well, how my brain works, for me to lay everything out, set it aside, and then go to the sister page or matching page. If I were doing a single page layout, I would still wait until I have the page laid out and then decide if I'm going to stick with this or not. I'm not sticking with the black hole, as you can see. I got the other page and I'm propping up the boat on it. That hole just bothered me, and whenever I do normally fussy cut something out, I normally put it up on the same page, so I'm going to remember that for the next time and not try to be cheap. Anyway, I decided to paint on the sister page. I know, another thing. If you knew me, I don't paint. I scribble. I can't draw. I'm not an artist, but my husband actually is. That's what he wants to do full time. Anyway, and he's really good at it. Me, on the other hand, I scribble, but I love fooling with things and trying new things, and I had this idea in my head of originally just splattering some paint here and there, and but then I felt how thick and rich and creamy this paint is, and it's a paint that has a gel medium in it, and it thickens it up like whipped cream, and it just feels good and looks good. And I have this tool that I borrowed from my husband, the one that looks like it has a fork on the end, the one I'm using right now, and it makes these great lines across the page that looks like waves. So I got this idea once I started playing with the paint to just make a really thick wave of this paint going across it. And it looks nice with the photo, and I wanted it to be more playful because even though it was an overcast day, we had a lot of fun. It was a fun time at the beach, and I'm actually, before I go on, I'm using a glossy Mod Podge to give some of the areas of the background a shine or a sheen. And now I'm taking off the tape, and it came off easier than I thought because I painted over it. So if you try this, try not to paint on the tape. I use washi tape, and I like it. It feels great, and I like the way it looks beside the sister page. But the white around the corners it's a little bright, so I know I'm going to end up trimming that off because it clashes too much. Anyway, again, I'm going to start with the layering of the background photo. Same thing, can't cut straight, so I'll map that out. And it's funny, I had for this page a different idea, and scrapbooking is like that. Sometimes once you start creating something, everything changes in your head, and that's what happened here, and that's fine. But the basics of what I wanted to do are still there, and I think it'll work out very well with the marrying page. Anyway, each page for me doesn't have to look the exact same way. You don't have to have the same background page, obviously, that's how I feel, but I think it's fun to pull just a few tidbits, whatever that's called, from one page and put it on the other when you're doing a two-page spread. Just enough to know that these two pages are somehow connected. Again, there are no rules for scrapbooking. You can do whatever you like. Whatever makes you happy, it's for you, your family. It needs only please your eyes. Anyway, so again, the layering begins here. And I did let the paint dry overnight. And I don't know if this happens to you, but for me, if I let a layout stay on the side too long, like overnight or a week or two, everything changes in my head. And if I go back to it, then I see it differently sometimes. That didn't happen so much with this, but a lot of times if I walk away too long from a layout, it'll change. And so the thing that I did think about overnight with this was, and I hadn't thought of this the day before, I want to cut out a part of the painted page, whatever is going to be underneath the photo, and put some of that on the opposite page. At first I was thinking maybe I could just add some of that paint, or I don't know. But anyway, I want to take whatever's underneath the photo, just a small amount, and bring it to the other side. So I'm going to speed things up here while I play with the embellishments, and I'm wanting to lay my embellishments over top of that hotel in the background. It's a little distracting for me. And all I'm doing is fooling around with everything here and moving it here or there. The boat can't go anyplace else, so I should really glue that down. Anyway, I'm tapping my fingers, I'm thinking, and I bring over some wood elements to the right page. but it definitely still needs a little bit more pop of color, so I'm adding in just a little red to put underneath, just a little in maybe the top and the bottom or the corners to help those photos pop up a bit more. Anyway, I think I'm coming into the home stretch here. Doesn't quite look like it, but it is. And this nice pop of red really helps the layout, helps that photo pop up a little bit more against the blue. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And just play around. I wish I could move that fast for real. That would be cool. So this is the fun part. It's when you get close to the end of your layout and you're thinking, this isn't bad. So there have been a few changes from what was in my head to what it's ending up to be, but not too many, give or take. Anyway, I'm cutting out the part of the painted side, the right side, so that I can put some of that on the sister page. And I was a bit nervous doing this because the texture is so thick and I didn't want to rip it or destroy it, ruin it, whatever. So I really had to dig at it with my X-Acto knife here, and it worked. I just had to play with it a little bit. And it came out, so of course I have to put something underneath it to give it a little bit more, make it sturdy so it'll hold up everything. Anyway, so that pineapple, I keep trying to make it fit, and she has a pineapple in her bathing suit, and it's just so cute, but it just seems kind of big. And I don't want too many large objects on here, even though I keep trying to fit them. But I think what I like about the page is all the different layers, the textures, the colors. It tells the story nicely. It's not taking away from my photographs. And finally, I'm gluing down that boat. And the photos. I look at this and I think about what was in my head in the beginning and where I'm at now. And I do like the changes. I really like the paint. I didn't see it that way, but it came out much better than what was actually in my head. That little ruler, it's a little 3-inch ruler. It works out really well to cover up the umbrella stick. But the hotel that's in the background on the right, it's not a bad looking hotel. It's really very nice, but it's not the focal point of my story. It's not the focal point of my picture. My picture is all about my daughter and how excited she is to be at the beach. So I end up covering up that hotel. That plane was too light. It wasn't showing up enough against the blue. So I did some fussy cutting off camera. I didn't think you need to watch me do that again. And I made some attachments for the plane to pull from my label maker. And that worked out really good. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the textures from the right to the left. I want to pull this one out a little bit more just to, so that it's seen more. On the other side, I didn't want my eyes to go off page. And one reason why I'm putting 2 planes on this page is because the plane at the top is going off the page. So I don't want your eyes or my eyes to be taken off the page. So I have another plane that I'm going to add in just to keep the focal point in the center of the page. and then adding elements again from the other side. This gave me the creeps doing this, because my original idea was to start taking out some of the white spots and have them show through, and put another paper underneath, the 12 by 12 paper, the dark blue underneath, and have it show through. But when I started digging out this piece, I thought, oh, that's not a good idea. So I fixed it. I just actually stuck it back in and mended it back together, and it worked out really well. And then I went crazy with the blue. And sometimes I'm telling myself, stop, stop, don't do that, stop, stop, but I can't stop. And I didn't want to hold on to it overnight again, because I know something else would pop in my head and I might want to change or add something. And I really liked where this layout was going, and I wanted to finish it at this moment in time and not carry on. So I used a dryer to dry the paint real fast. The first time I did the whole painting of the page, I really had to let it set overnight because it was really thick, and it really needed to set. Anyway, the planes are looking really cute. And I think this page needed a little fun, something, kid-friendly on it, a little brighter. Anyway, so I like the blue on the blue. It helps it to pop a bit more. And there is a lot of sheen on the paint from the glossy Mod Podge, which for some reason isn't really being picked up on camera here, but it really has an awesome sheen to it. So I keep thinking, do I really need bling at the end? Because, girls like bling. And you probably saw a giant lighthouse pop in and out of there, but that did not work. It's awfully cute, but it never makes it to the page. This one works real well. And that balloon has moved from this being on both pages to just being on one, which I think works a lot better. And that little sign that I'm trying to find a place for says at the beach, but it's not working for me. So this is the fun part where you're just, fooling around with your embellishments and seeing where everything's going to end. And I always find myself putting on gloves when I work because I'm a mess. And I don't want my stain to get on the layout. So, and I could run and wash my hands, but I want to keep working, so I'm using the gloves. I keep them handy. And if I haven't said it before, I will list everything below what I'm using. A lot of fun products. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and everything's mixed up. It's not from the same pack of embellishments or paper or anything. So I like it when I get to this point because not only am I almost done, but I'm starting to think about the next 2 pages. Since this is a 4-part series, I am thinking about what I'm going to do next. And that will also be a 2-page spread. I should have it up within a week. I'm not thinking about painting, but I am going to try something new again. And those 2 little parts that stuck out, the paint that stuck out, I really liked it when it was on the white. And if it were a page that I would have kept on the original white background, I wouldn't have taken it off. I wouldn't have clipped that. I mean, it just looked really neat. And it was nice and thick and had great texture, but it wasn't working for me. And finally, the balloon goes down. And I keep thinking to speed this up faster, but then I feel like I don't know, my eyes wouldn't keep up with it. So please give me some pointers, some tips. Tell me what you think. I'm open to your ideas and your feedback. I'd really appreciate it. That play sticker or piece of wood, it came out too dark. The boats came out just the way I wanted them to, but the clay was just a little too dark. So I'm thinking about putting a wash on that just to lighten it up some, because I'd still like to use it. And I'm thinking the little lighthouse here would look nice with, I don't know, like a little piece of land around it or some sort of path around it. So I'm using the same little cup holders for that. And I like it. Most times when I'm scrapbooking, like at this point, I kind of, know everything's winding down. It's getting to where I want it to be. But there is always this part of me that's thinking, when there's an open space, do I need something else? And I find that a lot of times if I like fill the blank spaces on pages, it gets to be too overwhelming, and you don't really need, to fill every corner of a page. A lot of people out here use like a triangle system for their embellishments, and I guess blindly I may do that in my head. I don't always think about it, but it sort of comes out. I'm not going to say naturally, but kind of almost naturally, because of the way your eyes work when they're on a page. You're creating something and you want it visually centered, and you want the attention to go to, particularly your photos. So what you're putting around your photos, usually, even without thinking, you use some sort of triangle system with your embellishments around the photos. And it happened here, even though I wasn't thinking about it. The lighthouse is at one point, the balloons at another point, and the boats make it a triangle. On the left side, the planes are above the sign with "Gone to the Beach," and then the boat popped up. Still another triangle, and so it keeps everything, it keeps your eye on the page. And even though I don't feel like I'm consciously sitting there thinking about techniques, I think the more you scrapbook, it becomes automatic, and you do things without really thinking about it. And that's what happened here. But I think the ultimate goal in the end is to have fun. If you like it, that's the most important thing. And to try to get those photos into scrapbooks so your family can enjoy it. It's fun when you see your kid looking at those photos and remembering those moments in time. And it's funny sometimes, because someone will say, that didn't happen then, or really, did that really happen that way? It starts the conversation of, I don't know, memories. When I first started scrapbooking, I knew nothing. I started going to crops, scrapbooking with ladies who had been doing it forever, and so I learned a lot from watching them. But it was such a fun thing to do, to take those photos that I have, in boxes, and to put them, out on display in albums. So I had stopped scrapbooking for quite some time, and I have a ton of pictures, and I'm playing catch up. So I have years and years of photos that I want to scrapbook. And not every picture I take will end up in a scrapbook. And from this particular series, I took, I think I said 26 photos at the beach, and 18 of them end up on the 4 pages that I'm doing. I think it's 18. Anyway, the other photos I don't want to throw away. So I'll show you what I do with photos I want to keep, that I still want to be part of an album. Anyway, we're at the end, and I thank you again for joining me. Here's a few still shots of the layout, and I'll see you within a week. Thanks again for joining me.